Most people now are working as private contractors. And most of your truck drivers are private contractors with their owner-operators of rigs and stuff. And starting in California, there's an attack trying to do away with private contractors and things like that. And this has been something that Matthew DenOtter is going to be focusing on. Matthew DenOtter is with us tonight. He is a candidate for Congress in Michigan's 11th district. I don't know, are we in the 11th? Okay, this is the new one. It's the way they redrew all the maps. I'm always a little confused of where the 11th and where the 8th is. But Matthew DenOtter is actually one of the few, maybe one of two, maybe three candidates left for the 11th district nomination. He actually has 21 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. And he's also been involved in the trucking industry for over 20 years, and he's a licensed real estate agent. So he's a business owner. He's got a lot of great ideas. Please welcome Matthew DenOtter.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm glad you're here tonight. What I want to tell you is that for those that don't know me, obviously I'm Matthew DenOtter and I'm running the 11th district. As far as this seat, it's very winnable because right now we have an opportunity that's never been here before because of the current administration. And what we want to focus on, and I had a chance to talk to Matt Marco and sit down with him, and we talked about issues that we think that can unite this party. Because the real crisis at hand right now is the Republican Party is divided, and it's pretty evident. And what we need to do is actually get the party behind us by uniting us with certain issues that everybody can rally around. And that's going to be our focus. I want to thank Matt for sitting down with me, and I want to thank my wife, Lisa. She's over there. She's instrumental to the campaign. She's also got... So what we're talking about with these issues and what we're going to do is that beyond unity is what we're looking for.
Hold the mic a little bit closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, what issues that we can do, that we can unite around, and these are core issues that I want to focus on tonight. The first one is the economy. The second one is inflation. The third one is going to be the supply chain crisis, because that's critical right now because the Democrats are trying to stunt the economy by their overregulation. Also, we want to talk about the job shortages. I mean, they're evident here. I mean, how many of you have had to wait for food? It's one of the things that you see in all the restaurants. And even though, regardless of wages, they still can't attract workers. And then we're going to focus on the recession that's upcoming, and maybe possibly a global depression because of all the global instability. So let's start looking at these issues that are going to unite us. The first one I'm going to look at is the recession, and not the recession, the economy. The economy is important because you have to understand how it works. It's factored around free markets. And what free markets do is they self-regulate. And this is important because the Democrats want to over-regulate. When you over-regulate free markets, you actually stifle growth and you cost jobs. So that's no good. And what we need to return that focus on is that policies that help industry and listen to industry and find out what our problems are, because when you're working with industry, you actually get a 6-month window ahead of everybody else to see what's coming. Okay? So if you're not listening to these people, like the current administration, guess what? You don't know what's coming. You're guessing. So these people that are guessing are on the wrong page because I'm going to expose that today on the issues that we're going to talk about. So the next issue, let's talk about inflation. Inflation is costing you $433 a month. That's what it costs you just to continue your status quo. That's the number. And it's a lot of money if you think about it. $433 you can do a lot with. Other than that, you could say, wow, what else is going on with inflation? Well, let's look at fuel costs. Fuel costs are up 100%. They were at $2 a year ago, and now they're over $4. So we know it's over 100%. Next is we can look at your essentials. Look at clothing, food, housing. All these costs are up 10 to 20%. So you're looking at an issue here where you have inflation, where we're trying to fight off hyperinflation or stagflation. And you have to be talking to businesses that know what's going on so you can see what's ahead. The next point I want to point out is not only are we going to talk about this, but this is really important. It's called the supply chain crisis. And this issue is really pertinent to me because it's a focus because it affects all the two issues that I just talked about. The economy and inflation center around our supply and demand and how we move freight and how we get your goods to you. So I want to point out what Andy Levin just said on the radio. He was on WJR and he said this. He said the supply chain is too broke to be fixed. It needs to be rebuilt. And AB 5, which is a California law, and I'll explain what that is, will be the cornerstone to this rebuild. This will be a nationalization of a California law for every state. And this is not good for us, and I can tell you why. Because it's going to cost jobs, and it's going to cost us things that we can't prevent. And whether you like it or not, we're at a war with China. It's an economical battle. And this, with crippling our supply chain, it's actually going to prevent us from being the superpower that we deserve to be in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our country is focused on that you can, small businesses, that you can go out and you can actually work hard in America and achieve, right? And this is a problem we're seeing in our youth of their lack of desire to work, right? Because they've been indoctrinated to not want to work. They feel entitled. So going back to what Andy Levin said, and he specifically said the truckers were to blame. He pointed them out, which I was surprised. But what he doesn't realize is that AB 5, for you that don't know what it means, is that it gets rid of 1099s. So if you know anybody that 1099s from salons, farmers, real estate agents, contractors, builders, and more importantly, our truck drivers, they're independent operators. What he doesn't realize is that 95% of our supply chain is touched by independent operators. 93% of them that utilize independent operators are small companies. So what he's favoring is only 7% of the supply chain. Do you understand that $8 trillion a day moves through our supply chain? Now, think about this. If you were a patient and you were on a life support machine, and then as the doctor would tell the family, hey, we're going to take your mom or dad off this life support machine and we're going to rebuild it. Well, what's going to happen to that patient? Well, the same is true with our economy. It's something that this is a red flag, and the red flag is that Saudi Arabia, for the first time, we had a nation actually choose their currency over ours. So there's warning flags over there. This is something that we need to avoid. Not only that, how does it apply to you? Well, 100% of your frozen food and produce are carried to you by independent operators. So how you get your burgers, your fries, all this stuff that you take for granted because we haven't really thought about it and the media is not talking about it, is at risk. So AB 5 is a bad law. It'll affect more than just one industry, and that's why I really want to rally around the supply chain crisis, because it affects everyone. And the importance about this is that we want to attract orphan voters that are on the left to win this seat, because they're disenfranchised with the current establishment. Second, we want to get those moderates. We want independent voters, right? This District 11 has 27% of the district is independent operators, or not independent, or moderates. So there's a big swing here, and that's what we're counting on, is that we're going to swing this district, and we're going to win it. But what's the real thing? You've got to keep it. How are you going to keep it? Well, you're going to keep it by serving and actually passing palatable policy that's passable. And that's what my focus is going to be, especially when it comes to the supply chain. Now, looking at how this affects small business and small business owners, 90% of our small business owners have said, we have supply issues. We're not having the things that we need to conduct business properly. 50% are experiencing delays. And you can see this if you go out to buy a car. A car is 6 to 8 months now to get the microchip that you need. You have to go to the dealership, order it, and now you're going to wait 6 months. Well, that's a problem, right? What if your car breaks down? You're going to wait 6 months to get a new car? Well, then you're forced to buy a used car, which are up 42% because of inflation. So now you're going to overpay for a used car. Well, what happens if your appliances break down? Well, you're going to wait 8 months. You're going to wait 8 months to have a washer or a dryer to do your clothes because they don't have the right equipment to put them together. Yeah. So But what we're saying is that with the supply chain and the crisis at hand is that we really need to focus on core issues that the infrastructure bill didn't address. Okay, so Biden just passed this huge bill, right? We just spent how many trillions of your money? Too many, right? They didn't address the ports, okay? So the ports, you're like, well, what's the big deal with the ports? Well, the ports were built in the 1930s. I want you to think about closet sizes. And this is kind of funny because I've been in real estate. Closet sizes in the 1930s are tiny. What are the closet sizes today? They're huge. So what does that mean about our supply and demand? Well, it's gone way up, right? Which is good because we live in free markets, we're for capitalism, and we want businesses to thrive. So that's a good thing. But other than that, we're looking at situations where we have to navigate and get through them. So going back to the worker shortage now, I want you to talk about worker shortages because we see that with the students, the kids, they don't want to work. They want to sit at home, they feel entitled, and they'd rather just stay on the couch. They don't want to go work at a burger place, even if you pay them $20 an hour. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So what we have to do is address issues that we can encourage them to go out and get new jobs that actually pay six-figure salaries. Let's do better than $15 an hour. Well, I have an example, and it's specifically with freight, and which helps our supply issues, is that truck drivers actually make over 100 grand. These truck driver jobs are what we want to focus on through trade. We have to be manufacturing independent, and that's going to be one of my goals, is to get us back to that space where we are going to be manufacturing independent, we're going to be fuel independent, and I've got news for you. Because I'm talking to industry, because I'm out all over the country right now traveling to recruit people to donate and support this district, is that I learned this. Guess what they just developed? It's called synthetic diesel. Synthetic diesel, by the way, is something we can create, make here. We don't have to be dependent on foreign nations for this, which is fantastic because we're talking about global instability. But not only that, it almost burns at zero emissions. So I don't have to change the infrastructure. I could use the infrastructure that we're using right now and support clean diesel. And this is something that Haley Stevens or Andy Levin have no clue about, because what they're pushing is solutions that are 30 years down the road that will be viable then. Well, what about today? Well, that's what my focus is that I'm a pragmatist, where I focus on problems that are current and issues that we need to address now. And that's going to be my focus. Now we can talk about the recession. The recession is coming. Now Bank of America just called out and said that there's warning flags with freight. Well, you have to understand with freight, it was all pushed forward. So because it was pushed forward, you don't see the lack in supply right now. And we know this because I'm with the freight people. You will be feeling it because Shanghai is shut down. We're going to have another port issue that Mayor Pete's going to be, I don't think he's going to be able to deal with. But besides that, it's going to get to an issue where we're going to have shortages again. And that's going to push us further towards the recession. Okay, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we have to increase our port sizes. We've got to get more drivers to drive because our driver shortage is about 100 to 20,000 drivers short. That's what we need. We need more room. We need more drivers. We've got to encourage people to drive. We've got to encourage people to get into trades, even in the contracting world. And this was going to help our country. And that's how we're going to fend off this inflation that's coming. But you need a businessman in charge because what a businessman knows is he can think 15 steps ahead. It's not that you're playing the one step, I'm going to just do this because it sounds good. Because when Andy Levin was attacking the truckers, his point was about emissions. He wasn't dealing with supply issues. He didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know how bad this was going to affect your lives. And that's the point, is this is about you. And that's what I'm going to make clear here tonight is that I'm running to serve, I'm not running to win. I don't have to do this. I have a job. I'm actually going to make less money doing this job. I'm going to give up my lifetime benefits, and I'm going to give up my pension. Now you're going to say, why? Well, opportunity. And that's why we have to unite. Because this opportunity only comes once in a lifetime. That we're going to have this great of an opportunity to flip this seat because it's a D7. So it trends towards the Democrats. And there's nothing we can do about it but get together, unite, and hope that the independents come and swing. But to do that is to give them viable, uniting issues that they can get behind. And that's our focus. And that's what we're going to do to win the seat. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, is that we need you to get involved. Not only that, we've been working hard. I was endorsed by TIA, which is 1,900 trucking companies. So I've been adamant about getting them to find out what's going on with current issues. And that's critical because it helps me guide my policy. It gives me a place to go so that when I get to DC, I'm already working with industry so that I can pass these bills day one. I don't have to wait, because a lot of politicians, what do? They wait. They sit on their hands. What's your biggest complaint about the people that are in power right now? What's going on? So we're going to be focused on actually getting things done, focused on palatable policy, and we're going to keep on working hard. So I'm hoping that I can earn your vote tonight. I'm hoping that you'll check out my website, DenOtterforCongress.com. I'm hoping that you'll go on and volunteer. Lisa's going to have a board, and we're recruiting an army. We need everybody, all hands on deck. Because what we're going to do is that we're going to surprise them, because we're going to outwork them. And that's what we've done right now in this primary. To separate myself from anyone that was going to run against me is I'm going to outwork them. Because that's what I believe in, is hard work. So thank you. And have a good night.
Matthew DenOtter, candidate for Michigan's 11th District. He's going to be going up against either Haley Stevens or Andy Levin. Hopefully they'll beat each other up pretty good before that happens.